Hello everyone, my name is Kitty Spade, but you can call me Sage. And on today's episode of What Am I Doing With My Life, we're going to be making some mood board OCs. Or, I suppose, just OCs based upon mood boards, but I digress. Now, instead of me just picking out mood boards at random, I decided to ask a couple friends of mine to give me some that they like. This will help to make the process a lot more interesting, not just for me, but for you guys as well. I tend to be a tad bit biased when it comes to the themes I look for in mood boards, so by outsourcing to other people, it'll help for my results to be a tad bit more diverse. Before we jump in, I would just like to apologize for the audio quality that's going to be in this video. I'm not exactly a seasoned YouTube creator, so I don't really have very nice mics or anything of the sort, so I'm kind of just working with what I have here. With that out of the way, let's get started. Now, this first one I actually didn't have too many difficulties with, since I already had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do with it. The mood board itself gives me a lot of ethereal vibes, so I wanted to incorporate that into the design. To do this, I made sure to keep everything very soft in order to get across a more somber, quiet sort of feeling within the character themselves. I wanted them to give off the same calming feeling that I initially got when seeing this board, and for the most part, I think I succeeded at that. As for the cat aspects of this design, I mainly just used the cat that was already in the mood board as a sort of starting point. I really liked the colors and patterns that were being used there, so really all I did was try to incorporate them into the character as best I could. To go with this, I added a plethora of both light and dark blues, yellows, and a little bit of purple. Basically, just any of the colors you would find naturally within the night sky. The clothing I kept relatively simple, at least pattern-wise, as the markings on the fur were already pretty busy as is. I still wanted to achieve a quote-unquote godly look though, so I tried to put them in something that came across as more sophisticated and elegant. The flowing fabrics and draping wrist cuffs also helped blend more into that somber or soft look that I was gearing towards. Overall, I kinda just wanted this character to feel like they embodied the night sky, almost like a walking manifestation of it. This next mood board was also pretty easy for me to figure out, aside from the outfit, that is, but we'll get to that. I immediately got buff lesbian gymnast from this board. Don't ask me why, I genuinely have no idea where that came from. It's just the vibes that I got, and I very much leaned into them with this character. I wanted her to come off as very confident and sure of herself, because, I mean, why wouldn't she be? Just look at her. She is a whole damn meal, and she knows it. I put her in a very cocky pose, to the point where it kinda looks like she's posing for an Instagram photo. She probably has a decent following with those biceps. Honestly, the only thing that really tripped me up with this design was the clothing. I knew I wanted to put her in something gym wear-esque looking, and I did eventually end up settling on just a simple tube top and sweats, but I had a really hard time with the colors and patterns. No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't find something that I liked. The colors either looked too muddy or didn't flow well within the design, and the patterns just kept looking too messy or overdone. So I will admit, I caved and got some outside help from my good friend Styx. They are a master when it comes to patterns and color palettes, and they were a huge help in getting this design to look a lot more congruent. With this mood board, I had a pretty good idea of the general vibe I wanted to go for, but I had a little bit of trouble with the overall execution. I wanted to incorporate both the little cat in the middle, as well as the different fish motifs scattered throughout the rest of the mood board. All the while, I also wanted to attempt to keep a similar, childcore-esque palette. So yeah, suffice to say, I had a lot of different elements that I wanted to try to mash into this one singular character. Despite my struggles, I think this one was the most fun for me to make, and it might even be my favorite of the bunch. I first went with a much scruffier look for the head and body, but I didn't end up liking the look. I just didn't think it matched the aesthetic I was going for. I made several attempts to fix this, trying to adjust different things and find something I liked, but nothing really came out in a way I was happy with, so I decided to just scrap this attempt and try something else. If nothing else, I suppose you can take this as a sign that you should never be afraid to try something again. You might come out with something that is much better after all. On my second attempt, I went with something much softer, with some exaggerated cheek fluff to add to the look. I love the idea of carrying over the little flower surrounding the cat's head in the mood board, so I decided to keep it in this rendition as well, just a little more detailed than my last attempt. The colors I tried to keep relatively similar to those within the mood board, adjusting the saturation and hues of certain ones in order to make the whole thing a little more cohesive. A little detail that I decided to add kind of last minute was the gummy look on the fishtail. This wasn't originally something that I was going to do, but the mood board itself kind of gave me that childhood gummy look, I suppose. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but I thought it really fit with the design overall, so I decided to add it in last minute, and I think it actually looks really good. This final mood board was actually very difficult for me to transfer successfully into a character. Even with them finished, I'm still not entirely happy with the outcome, but at this point I'm tired of fiddling with this design, so I'm just gonna keep it where it's at. The main reason I think I had so much trouble with this is because it's a design style that is very much out of my comfort zone. I tend to lean towards very cutesy or earthy characters, focusing more on natural coloring and lower saturation with the colors, rather than something like the mood board here, where there's a lot of very bright and quote unquote busy colors and themes going on. It's very much giving off a techno or sci-fi vibe, which is not something I dabble in very often. And by no means is that a bad thing. I love being able to explore new things outside of my normal context and push myself to try new things. Overall, I don't hate this design. I really like the body shape that I decided to go with, and I think the clothing came out really nice. I just think the colors still came out looking kind of funky, but I'm not entirely sure anymore how to fix it or how to make them more cohesive. And I don't think it looks bad enough to completely start over either. The design is just kind of mid, which is okay, honestly. Not everything has to come out perfect, that's just part of the learning process. And it also took me like 4 hours just to get the product you're seeing right now. So, in the interest of not crippling my hand any more than it already is, I think it's best to leave things where they lie. And that's it. I had a lot of fun making each one of these characters, and I really enjoyed each of the mood boards that were given to me. Each one has a different style to it that I think really stands out and really helps differentiate the characters. If you've taken a liking to any one of these characters, they will be available for adoption on my toy house, which will be linked below. I don't really have a use for them right now, so I figure I can just give them away to some loving homes that'll put them to good use. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and consider subscribing if you'd like to see what I make in the future. If you have any ideas for future videos, feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' ideas. With that, I'm going to skedaddle. Hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!